I never imagined I would be in this situation. My name is Sedef. I'm 50 years old, and just a few months ago, I had everything I could ask for. A family, a home, a steady job that paid the bills, and a sense of peace. That was until everything came crashing down. It all started one morning when I walked into the office, and my boss pulled me aside. The company was going through a restructuring, and they were cutting costs. My position was being eliminated. Just like that, after 15 years of loyal service, I was left with nothing. I tried to hold it together, but the news hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought I was secure. I thought my job would always be there. How foolish I was to believe in something so temporary. When I came home that day, I wasn't sure how to tell Imran, my husband. I dreaded the look of disappointment on his face. He had always been the one who took care of everything. He had the job that brought in the bigger paycheck, the career that everyone admired. My job as an accountant was just a small piece of our family puzzle, but it had always made me feel valuable. Now that it was gone, I feared that he would see me as a failure. When I told him, his expression darkened. I tried to explain how it wasn't my fault, how I had done my best, but I could already see the shift in him. His face tightened, and instead of comforting me like I had expected, he pulled away. His words were blunt. "This is going to change everything, Sadaf. What are we going to do now? How are we going to manage?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was desperate for his support, his reassurance. Instead, I felt his disappointment in every word he spoke. I had never felt so small. It was like I wasn't the person he had fallen in love with anymore. Like I had become a burden. I couldn't hold it in anymore and burst into tears, pleading with him to understand that I had never expected this to happen. But he just stood there, shaking his head, like everything had already been decided. It didn't stop there. In the weeks that followed, the tension between us grew. Imran wasn't the same person. He started coming home later, retreating into his work, and when he did come home, his attitude toward me became cold. Every little thing I did seemed to irritate him, and I could feel the emotional distance growing. He didn't want to talk about the future or make plans. It felt like I was living with a stranger, someone I didn't recognize. My children, too, began to pull away. Ali, my 27-year-old son, was busy with his career. I understood that, but he barely called, and when he did, it was only to ask for money. His calls became increasingly brief, and I could tell he wasn't really listening when I spoke to him. It was like he had his own world, one where I was no longer important. Sarah, my 22-year-old daughter, was just starting out in her career. She had just graduated and had big dreams of her own. But as the weeks went by, I could see that my struggles were becoming a burden to her too. She didn't want to deal with my emotions, didn't want to hear about my pain. When I needed her most, she was absorbed in her own life. I knew she loved me, but I could feel the disconnect. I had always tried to be a good mother, a good wife. But now, as I looked at my family, I felt like I was invisible. The pain of losing my job was nothing compared to the pain of losing the people I had spent my whole life loving. It was like a dream I couldn't wake up from, this life I had worked so hard to build, now falling apart right in front of me. It all came to a head one evening when Imran told me, in no uncertain terms, that things couldn't continue like this. "Sadaf, I can't do this anymore. You've lost your job and we can't keep going like this. I've been thinking about it, and maybe it's time you leave. I don't know what you want from me, but I don't know how much longer I can take it." I stood there, stunned. It was as if he had just torn out the last thread holding me together. He was asking me to leave. My own husband, the man I had shared my life with for over 20 years, the man I thought I could count on, was telling me that I wasn't enough anymore. I had no place to go. I had no savings, no job, no way of supporting myself. My world was crumbling. But the final blow came when, a few days later, he packed his bags and walked out the door, leaving me in a state of shock. His words echoed in my mind. "You're on your own now, Sadaf." I stood in the empty house, listening to the silence that followed. My whole life felt like it was being torn apart. How could the man I had loved and trusted for so long walk away from me like this? How had I gone from being the heart of my family to someone who was discarded? Someone who didn't matter anymore? I spent the following days in a daze. I wasn't sure what to do. My heart was shattered, and my mind was a whirlwind of questions and confusion. How could I rebuild from this? I felt completely lost. But then, just as I thought I had reached the lowest point of my life, something unexpected happened. It wasn't the answer I had been looking for, but it changed everything. One morning, while cleaning out my purse, I found an old lottery ticket I had purchased months earlier. I had completely forgotten about it. On a whim, I decided to check the numbers. I didn't expect anything to come of it, but I figured it might distract me from the pain for a moment. And then I saw it. The numbers matched. I had won $1 million. I couldn't believe it. For a moment, I thought I was imagining things. I looked at the ticket again, and again, I saw that the numbers matched. My heart raced. My hands trembled. $1 million, it was mine. Just like that. It was as if life had given me a second chance. I had no idea what to do. For a few minutes, I just stared at the ticket in disbelief. It was the last thing I had expected. My life had been turned upside down, but this win, the win that felt like it came out of nowhere, was like a glimmer of hope. It felt like I had been given a fresh start, a way to move on from the pain that had consumed me. This win wasn't just about the money. It was about freedom. It was about reclaiming control over my life. It was about showing myself that I could still overcome adversity, that I could rise from the ashes of my shattered family. For the first time in months, I felt like I had a purpose again. And no matter what happened next, I knew that I had the strength to build a new future. A future where I was no longer defined by the man who left me or the family that had turned its back on me. The lottery win was just the beginning. The days following my lottery win felt surreal. I had been living in a fog, emotionally battered, but suddenly, everything seemed different. The $1 million didn't just offer financial freedom. It offered me something more precious. A chance to start over. I could feel a shift in me as I looked at my surroundings. The same house where I had lived with Imran. The same walls that had witnessed my heartbreak. I thought about leaving, starting fresh in a new city, with new people, but I couldn't shake the weight of the past. The memories of my children, of my marriage, still clung to me like a shadow. I thought about Imran often. Even though he had left, I still missed him. It didn't make sense, but there was a part of me that still hoped we could fix things, that somehow we could make it work again. That deep down, I knew the truth. He wasn't coming back. One evening, just a few weeks after I won the lottery, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but something inside me made me pick it up. Sadaf? The voice on the other end was familiar, and it sent a wave of emotion crashing over me. "It's Imran," he said, his voice quieter than I remembered, filled with uncertainty. "Imran," I whispered, my heart thudding in my chest. I hadn't expected to hear from him. The suddenness of it threw me off guard. There was a long silence before he spoke again. "I know it's been a while, but I wanted to talk. Can we meet? There are things I need to say." I didn't know what to think. My mind raced, and I felt the weight of everything, the betrayal, the anger, the hurt, settling back in my chest. But the thought of seeing him again, hearing his voice, overwhelmed me. "Okay," I finally replied, my voice shaky. "We can meet." We agreed to meet at a local cafe. When I walked in, I spotted him right away. He was sitting at a corner table, his head slightly lowered, his hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. He hadn't changed much. He still had the same broad shoulders, the same rugged looks, but there was something about him that felt distant, as though he wasn't the man I had spent all those years with. I walked toward him, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what to expect from this meeting. All I knew was that I was nervous, my emotions in turmoil. I had so many questions, so many things I wanted to say. But as I sat across from him, all I could do was stare. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us was suffocating, and I could feel my hands trembling in my lap. Finally, Imran looked up at me, and the sadness in his eyes made my heart ache. "I've been a fool. Sadaf," he said quietly, his voice filled with regret. "I left, and I should have never done that. I didn't know how to handle what was happening. I thought walking away was the answer, but all I did was make everything worse." I swallowed hard, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill. The pain of his abandonment was still fresh, even after all this time. "Why, Imran? Why did you leave me when I needed you the most?" My voice cracked as I spoke, and I felt the weight of everything I had been carrying for so long crash down on me. He sighed, looking down at his hands. "I wasn't there for you. I wasn't there when you lost your job. I didn't know how to support you through it. Instead of being your partner, I turned away. I didn't know how to cope with the pressure, with the uncertainty. I was selfish. I left you, and I regret it every single day. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him how much he had hurt me, how much I had suffered because of his absence. But instead, I just sat there, feeling the weight of his words. It wasn't just about the job, Imran. You didn't just leave me. You abandoned our family. You abandoned me. I felt like I wasn't enough." "I know," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I know, and I am so sorry. I thought leaving would make things easier, but it only made everything worse. I hurt you, Sadaf, and I can't take that back. But I want you to know that I've changed. I know I can never make up for what I did, but I want to try. If you'll let me, I want to be there for you. For us." I looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the man I had once loved. There was no anger in his eyes now, just sadness and regret. But I wasn't sure what to do with that. Could I forgive him? Could I let go of the years of pain he had caused? "I don't know if I can forgive you, Imran," I said softly, the tears finally escaping my eyes. "I've been through so much, and I don't know if I can ever trust you again. But I'm not the same person I was before. I'm stronger now. I've learned to stand on my own 2 feet, and I've learned that I don't need you to be happy. I need myself." Imran reached across the table, his hand trembling as he touched mine. "I understand, Sadaf. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want to show you that I've changed. I want to prove that I'm not the man I was when I left. I want to be part of your life again, if you'll let me." As I sat there, looking at the man who had once been my everything, I realized that this moment wasn't just about him. It was about me. It was about what I wanted, what I deserved, and what I was willing to let go of. I didn't need his apology to heal. I needed to heal on my own terms. "I don't know what the future holds for us, Imran," I said, my voice steady now. "But I know one thing for sure. I found my own way, with or without you." The days that followed were filled with reflection. I had won $1 million. Yes, but that was only a small part of the change I had gone through. The real change was in me, in how I had learned to rebuild my life after everything fell apart. Imran's return wasn't the resolution I thought I needed, but it showed me that I had the power to move forward. No matter what, I knew that life would never be the same. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was in control. I had my future in my hands, and it was mine to shape. The weeks after our meeting were filled with a whirlwind of emotions. The chance to reconnect with Imran had opened old wounds, but also allowed new possibilities to grow. The $1 million lottery win had given me financial freedom, but it was clear that it couldn't heal everything. Money couldn't fill the empty spaces in my heart that had once been occupied by Imran's love. Every day, I wrestled with the decision of whether to give him another chance. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about trust. How could I trust someone who had walked away without a word? The betrayal ran deep, and the walls I had built around my heart were not so easily torn down. I couldn't simply forget the past, the hurt, the loneliness. But then, a defining moment came that made everything crystal clear. Imran reached out again, this time in a way that I wasn't expecting. He didn't want to meet in a cafe or call me on the phone. No, this time, he came to my home, unannounced. He was standing at the doorstep, his face soft and tired, his hands clasped tightly in front of him. He didn't have any grand speeches or rehearsed words. He was just there. He had come to see me, not with any ulterior motive, but because he finally understood what I needed all along: honesty. "Sadaf," he began, his voice trembling, "I don't know how to make up for what I did. I can't undo the past, and I won't pretend that I haven't hurt you. But I want you to know that I love you, and I will love you in the way you deserve, if you can ever trust me again." I didn't say anything for a long moment. I just looked at him. There were no more tears in my eyes, no more anger, just clarity. I had been fighting this decision for months, torn between the pain of what he had done to me and the love that I had always carried for him. But in that moment, standing there in front of me, he wasn't the man who left. He was the man who wanted to be better, to be the man I had always hoped he could be. I stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest. "Imran," I began softly, my voice steady but heavy with emotion. "I have spent so many months asking myself what went wrong. But now I realize it wasn't just you who needed to change. I did too. I've grown, I've become someone stronger. And I don't need you to complete me, Imran. I'm whole on my own." His eyes filled with sorrow, and for a second, I thought he would break down. But I wasn't done. "You left me when I needed you most," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But I survived. I found my own strength. And that's not something I can just forget. You might have come back, but it's not the same anymore. I've changed too much." Imran's face fell as I spoke, but there was no defensiveness in him. He was silent, listening to every word, knowing the weight of what I was saying. He knew I wasn't angry anymore. I had let that go. But I wasn't going to let him back into my life, just because he had come back. I had rebuilt myself without him, and I wasn't going to lose that. "I can't go back to what we were, Imran," I continued. "I don't know if I can forgive you completely, and I'm not sure I want to. The years you took from me, my trust, my peace of mind, my security, those are things I can't give back. And no amount of money, no promises, can change that." Imran took a deep breath, then nodded, his eyes reflecting the understanding he had finally reached. "I understand," he said quietly. "I truly do. I was selfish, and I have no excuse for what I did. But I want to be a better man. I'll always love you, Sadaf. And I hope you find the happiness you deserve, whether it's with me or without me." With those final words, he turned and walked away. And as I watched him leave, something in me clicked into place. For the first time, I felt at peace. I didn't need him anymore. I didn't need his apology or his promises. I had found something greater: self-love, strength, and resilience. I had already won more than money could ever give me. I had won the ability to stand on my own. As I closed the door behind me, I took a deep breath. The life I had lost, the life I had tried to rebuild with Imran, was gone. But in its place was something far more precious. My future. It wasn't going to be easy, and there would be moments when I would doubt my decision. But in that moment, standing alone in my home, I knew that I had made the right choice. I was free to live life on my own terms, free to move forward without looking back. And so, I stepped into my future, a future I would build, not with him, but on my own.